Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 42. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's very special guest, Judy Heminsley, from Work From Home Wisdom. Judy is an expert on working from home. Welcome, Judy.
Hello, Holly.
I'm so excited to have you here today.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for asking me.
So, why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your background? Have you always worked from home?
No, I haven't. I fell into it completely by mistake or without any conscious planning back in the 80s when I was involved in setting up a cleaning business with a partner. And I didn't think about the working from home aspect of it at all. It simply seemed a very logical thing to do. We were starting a small business and we wanted to keep costs down. So the obvious thing to do was to run it from the back bedroom. And I continued to do that for 12 years until I sold the business. And then I did some business advice. I trained to be a business advisor and I did that from home. And it wasn't until I went to University College Falmouth to do an MA writing course that I actually realised that the common thread in everything I'd done in the last 20 years had actually been working from home.
That's impressive. I actually don't know anyone who's managed to work from home for so many years and so many different projects as well.
Yes, that's right. I did have a short period when I worked in an office as a business advisor, but otherwise I was based at home doing various things, either working for myself or briefly in employment.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So tell us a little bit about your business journey. How did you get to where you are today with what you're doing?
Well, again, that wasn't particularly planned. As I say, I did a writing course and we had to write a thesis to hand in at the end that we were marked on. And because this was a professional writing course and I was doing non-fiction writing, my thesis had to be a book proposal for a publisher. Oh. And I had to come up with a subject and write the introduction and a couple of chapters and do all the research into the market, which is brilliant because that meant that when I finished the course, I had a book proposal all ready to send to publishers.
That's excellent.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. It gives you an excellent base to start off a career as a writer. And so I started pitching my book, and about 6 months later, I got a yes and a contract from How To Books, who were a little imprint based near Oxford. And funnily enough, they were a husband and wife team who had a publishing office and worked from home.
Excellent. Perfect matchup, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us a little bit about your book. Now, you'd already written the proposal. They were a perfect fit for you. And then how did the whole process go from there? What was that like?
Well, I signed the contract and we agreed a time for me to complete the book, which I think was about 6 months later. And so I spent most of my time after that doing the research and the writing. And in the middle of that, we had to move house, which is not particularly good timing, but somehow I managed to incorporate that. And then the manuscript was due, I think, in September, and by that time we'd moved up to Somerset, and so I actually went to physically deliver the manuscript and hand it over to my publishers, which was the only time that I've actually met them.
And when was the book initially released?
Well, it's amazing, but it's now 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
It's hard to believe that it's been out that long. But yeah, 5 years ago, and so I had a launch party for it, which I highly recommend. If anybody listening is going to write a book and is wondering whether to have a launch party, do it, because it's really great fun. And I always say it's the next best thing to getting married. Because it's all about you, and you get to be the star, the centre of attention, and people say nice things about you, and you have a lovely party, and everybody comes because it's a very special occasion, so everybody makes the effort. And that was great.
And it also sounds like a great way to celebrate the launch of your book and all that work and research that you put into it.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, because obviously there's an awful lot that goes into a book. Lots of research, lots of thinking, lots of planning, and not only the writing, but of course the rewriting and the editing.
And what types of topics are covered in this book? What can people expect?
I start with the reasons to work from home for people who aren't familiar with that. Maybe people who are working in an office and the thought has just occurred to them that they might like to work from home, or maybe they're facing redundancy. And then I go through from the point of setting up a home office and what you need in it, to establishing a routine and creating a discipline for yourself, because obviously it's very different from going into an office where you sit down and you're part of a structure and an organisation, and your daily routine is very much part of that. So often you don't actually have to think about that too much because it's dictated by other people. Mm-hmm. And looking at the challenges of working from home and the ways that you can approach that and the solutions. And as part of the research I did, I interviewed over 50 home workers all around the UK, men and women in the country, in the city, doing every kind of job you could possibly think of, from tradesmen and craftspeople to writers and web designers and techies and so forth. And so I've got lots of case studies in there. So it's not just my take on working from home, it's lots of other people have given their input.
I really like that, because I think everyone has a very, very different experience as far as working from home. So I think those case studies just add a lot of perspective to it.
Yeah, that's right. Because there are so many different factors when you're working from home. You know, if you think about the kind of work that you do, whether you have a family, where you live, the kind of house you live in, what your neighbours are like, your own personality, your own habits, everybody is different. And so what I've discovered is there aren't any rules for working from home, because there are so many different factors that impinge on it, that it's really the best way that you can work successfully from home is to find out for yourself what works best for you, which is a little bit daunting perhaps to hear, because it means that you can't just copy what other people do, because it may not work for you.
Yeah, it's a bit of trial and error, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. But I think of it in terms of experimentation and trying things out. And if it doesn't work, then move on and do something else. Yeah. And it can be a lot of fun, actually, to do that.
I like that. I think that's a very good approach. I know a lot of my friends, when they first start to work from home, they'll say, "Oh, I'm so excited I get to work from home in my pajamas." And I just think, my God, I can't get anything done in my pajamas. The first thing I have to do is change into real proper clothes, because I cannot get any work done when I'm not wearing real clothing.
No, that's right. I'm the same. Home workers do seem to fall into two camps over this. I've had discussions on my blog about it, and there are people apparently who work in pyjamas. I'm not one of them, but on the other hand, I don't kind of dress up in the sense of office clothes either. Yeah. I'm very happy in comfortable clothes. Jeans and tops and so forth when I'm working at home, and then wear something smarter to go out. But I had a very funny exchange actually on my blog. I had a tweet from a lady I didn't know, and she's never tweeted me before and never tweeted me since. And we were talking about this on Twitter, and she sent me a tweet that said, "Don't you know that in order to be professional and to do your work properly, you should wear professional clothes?" And I mentioned this on the blog, and I had a very funny response from somebody who said, "I refuse to subscribe to the idea that I can't write an email if I'm wearing the wrong trousers."
Yeah, I think that's just so indicative of the fact that everyone has their own style and their own needs and their own kind of setup for working from home.
Definitely, yes. And if you find that you do your best work if you're wearing a smart outfit and lipstick and so forth, then great, go ahead and do it. But not all of us need to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So what do you think are some of the top challenges that people experience when they first get started working from home?
Well, I think the most dangerous, actually, the biggest potential challenge is the danger of becoming isolated. Because although there are lots and lots of places that you can go to work now, you don't actually have to work at home all the time. You might end up spending a fair amount of time on your own. And the problem with that is that you tend to lose perspective. If you're living and working in the same place, you're not making that physical break. And that means that the same things tend to go around your mind over and over again. And so you can get stuck in things and not be able to see a way out. Yeah. And it can all become overwhelming. So that is a real danger. And I have to say that I have fallen into that trap numerous times in my many years of home working. Because the most dangerous thing about it is that usually you don't see it coming.
Yep.
And you're happily working away and you're thinking, gosh, I'm doing really well here and I'm being very disciplined and I'm reaching my deadlines and keeping my clients happy. And then all of a sudden, perhaps one morning, you'll suddenly feel a big slump come on and you'll feel quite defeated and deflated and feel that everything's getting on top of you and not really have a reason to pin it on. And I find that usually that's because I've not been getting out enough, or I've not been talking to enough people, and I'm just not getting any stimulation from outside.
I think that's such an important point that you bring up, because I'm a huge introvert, so I love working from home. And I'm also very much a hermit, so I love working from home. But I do get myself into those kind of pockets of isolation where, I'll go out to the gym every day, but I'm not actually speaking to anyone. Mm-hmm. So I may go out and see other human beings, but I'm not interacting. And so I do get myself into those kind of bits of isolation, and I've now done it more than once, and I know this, and I should know to kind of work something different into my schedule, but I don't. So I think that's such an important thing to bring out. Even though you think that you love being alone, you do need socialization every once in a while.
Absolutely, and I'm the same. I'm very happy in my own company, but I think anybody with that kind of tendency, when they start to work from home, they'll probably be surprised how much they do need outside input as well. Mm-hmm. Of course, extroverts probably don't fall into this as much because they're much more likely to go out and meet people because they need that and they're very aware of it. And I've certainly come across extroverts who say I couldn't possibly ever work from home because I just go mad.
Yes, my husband and I both work from home. He's an extrovert, and yes, I know he needs a bit more interaction with people than I do.
Yes. My partner works from home as well, so and we've done that for quite a long time. So yeah, that again is another challenge. There are all sorts of challenges. It's a challenge sometimes if your partner works from home as well, and it can be a challenge if they don't.
Yeah.
Because there's this, I think, common misperception that if you work from home, then why aren't the dishes done when the other half gets in the evening? Or why hasn't the shopping been done? Why isn't the house clean? As we know, it doesn't quite work like that.
No, it doesn't. That's a whole different kind of work, and often you don't kind of slot that into your schedule.
Well, that's right. I mean, that can actually be a distraction if you feel that you've got to get the house up to a certain standard as well as do your work. It's pulling you in two directions.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never actually suffered from that.
No, actually, me neither.
So what would you say are the top benefits from working from home? I know I would say probably most of our listeners do work from home and they could benefit from some tips on how to do that better. But I'm sure some of our listeners have never worked from home and either always been in an office environment. So what would you say are the benefits?
Well, you can save a lot of time.
Yes.
If you don't have to travel into work and back every day. So you save time, you save money on travelling. You save stress and aggravation, whether it's missing trains or trains being cancelled or public transport not being reliable.
Sitting in traffic.
Exactly, the stress of driving and getting into traffic jams and whatever. You also save money on things like clothes if you don't have to wear office clothes anymore. I call them office clothes. I think you know what I mean.
Yes,
I mean
yes,
smart suits or tops and skirts and so forth. Often those smart clothes need dry cleaning, don't they?
Yes, of course.
And so when you work from home, you can usually wear things that you can just chuck into the washing machine. Mm-hmm. And you save money on maybe coffees and lunches and other things that you might pop out and do. And I think maybe some people, if they work in a place with shops around, they might just make impulse purchases at lunchtime. Mm-hmm. So you save all that, and obviously you have more time, so there is the potential to spend more time with family and friends if you carefully work that out.
Yes. Interesting. Now, it looks from your website that you're very active in something called Jelly, which is an informal co-working program. So do you work partly from home and partly from co-working spaces?
Not a great deal at the moment. This changes all the time, which is one of the great things about working from home, is that you kind of go through phases. Mm-hmm. And you may have noticed this, that you might work from a co-working space regularly for a while, or then you find a cafe you like and you go there for a while, but you don't have to. We're very lucky. I live in Frome, which is a little market town in Somerset, and we do actually have a co-working space here, which is amazing. And I have worked from there. But at the moment, I'm spending quite a lot of time working actually at home. But jelly is something that home workers can do for themselves. As you say, it's a casual co-working event. It's not a structure or an organisation, or there are no rules, there are no employees. It's just this wonderful idea that home workers can get together at a specific venue, maybe once a month, all bring along their laptops, sit down and work together. And it's not networking, so there's no pressure of having to stand up and talk about yourself or anything like that. You simply work together, you chat, you ask questions, people share their experience. So it's very laid back, very friendly, and it's a way of getting out of the house, doing some work at the same time, and also benefiting from other people's experience.
Oh, I like that concept.
And if you haven't got a jelly near you, and if you want to find out if there is one, the best way to do is to Google UK jelly, and that's jelly as in the stuff you eat with a spoon. And there's a Find a Jelly page on that website, and so you can find out if you've got one near you. And if not, and you really like the idea, you can just set up your own. And on my website, there's a how to start your own jelly guide.
Oh, okay.
With all the information that you could possibly need on how to find a venue and how to convince the owner of the venue to let you use it for jelly, how to promote it, and so forth.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. I'd actually never heard of that concept until I visited your website, and I thought, what is this jelly thing? So I got into it.
Yeah, it's a great name. It always gets people's attention. And apparently the reason it's called that is that this was invented in New York a few years ago by a couple of techies who work from home and were getting fed up with exactly what we've been talking about, always looking at the same four walls and not meeting enough people. And so they decided it would be a good plan if they got a group of friends together and all worked in somebody's apartment for the day. And it worked very well, and it just mushroomed from there.
You know, it's interesting. I've actually know people that I've met online that will get together on Skype or on Google Hangouts, and they'll just meet up. Everyone will say, what they want to get done for the next couple of hours. They'll do their work, and then they'll kind of meet up again at the end and discuss, what they got done or what they need help with. And it's like they're all working together, but from their own homes, but online.
Oh, I've not heard of that.
Yeah.
That's a novel idea.
It is. And again, I work very well alone, so I've never actually done it, but I've always thought that was an excellent idea because you get that kind of socialization, but without actually leaving your home. So that's another option as well.
Yeah, that's a very good idea if you've got something to do that you're having difficulty with or that you've been putting off, isn't it?
Yes, because you've got that accountability. Everyone's right there on the line on Skype, and, you can't get away from them. Well, you can, but...
Yeah, that's a really nice idea, actually.
So tell us a little bit about your home office. Do you have an unusual home office, or how would you describe it?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's pretty standard, actually. It's our third bedroom. So it's a small room, and I've got a desk that is in front of the window, so I look out onto the river and the fields, which is a nice view to rest my eyes on. And I have a desk with my laptop and monitor, and a pedestal to one side with files in, and a filing cabinet, and that's it. So, not the most exciting home office. I think if I was setting one up now, I would probably do it a little bit differently. When I started home working, there was no specific home office furniture available. It was quite difficult because all the office furniture was designed for offices and it was a lot bigger. But of course now you can get home office furniture from virtually any furniture shop, which is brilliant.
Yes, excellent. And there's so many different options now, depending on what style of desk you like and what works best for you.
You can get home office furniture that fits with the style of the rest of your home, which is great. It doesn't have to look officey in the least.
Yeah, that's an
and you can get bits of furniture that are multi-purpose, so that have you seen these wonderful sort of armoire type things?
Yes.
Which open up and they've got an office space inside. So when you finish, you just close the doors and it's just a piece of furniture.
Yeah, I love those. They're so gorgeous. So, what are some of the more unusual or unique home offices that you've seen in all of your research?
Oh, well, I have home office galleries on my website, and we've recently reorganised the galleries so that they're organised by room in the house. So I've got kitchen home offices, I've got attic home offices and garden offices, because people tend to come to look for inspiration. So I thought it would be easier for them depending on which space in the house they're intending to use, they can go to that particular gallery and have a look to see what other people do.
Next year.
So really, every place in a house or garden that you can think of, somebody has turned it into a workspace. Not necessarily an office with doors, because I don't think that you need that, but just a place that they can perch and do their work. And I suppose the most unusual ones, there's a lady who lives not far from here who has converted. She lives in an old school, and she's converted what was the block of outside toilets in the school playground into her studio and workshop. So that's quite unusual. Somebody has very cleverly turned their understairs area into a little workspace, which is a really good idea. Other people work in barns, in the attic. I've got a few cellar home offices as well. And people do even work in bedrooms, which is kind of one of those things that has always been a bit of a no-no, that people have always said you shouldn't work in the bedroom. And I can understand the reasons behind it, because obviously it's a room where you need to go to relax and switch off and sleep. But, if you have room in your bedroom and you don't have room anywhere else, then that's an option. And I have photographs on my website of a bedroom home office, which is a really clever idea. Somebody has bought a glass desk, and what happens is that she works from that glass desk under her window during the day. And when she finishes work, she clears it off completely and puts her work stuff away in what used to be the wardrobe that she's converted into a cupboard. And pulls the curtains, and the glass desk, because it's transparent, it just seems to disappear. And it's not, we call it the disappearing desk because it's just not obtrusive at all.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so her home office converts to a bedroom at night.
Oh, that's excellent. So what would you say are your top tips about how to be more effective when working from home? Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges. There can be so many distractions that you don't have at an office.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the distractions can be, as we've said, the housework. They can be things like family and neighbours and friends who pop in or ring up because they don't quite comprehend that you are working at home. They just see the at-home bit and think, oh, she's there. I'll just pop round and say hello or ask if I can borrow something. So, yes, you do need to create boundaries for yourself, I think, and decide what those boundaries are. And I think with family and neighbours, sometimes you just have to keep reinforcing that because they might not quite get it to begin with, but you just have to be very polite but firm and just keep reinforcing it. Some people like to have separate phone lines, so they know that if one phone rings, that's the home phone. If the other one rings, it's business, and they won't answer the home phone during the day. I think self-awareness is really important. And kind of looking at your own behaviour and your own habits and working out the times that you're most productive. That's a good one, because it means that then you're kind of in the mood and you're ready to go. You're not forcing it against the flow. And for people who have always worked in an office, they may not really know that to begin with, because they've always had to conform to the stereotype we have that work is done between 9 and 5. But I always advise them to think about a time when they did something that went really well and really smoothly and they lost track of time, and whether that was at a particular time of day or night. And perhaps that indicates that that's a time when naturally they're more productive. And if there isn't a time like that they can think of, then just try it. Try different times. Get up early in the morning. Try working in the evening or late at night. Some people just love to work until the early hours because that's when they just seem to be able to flow.
And I think another thing is accepting that, because I've always wanted to be a morning person, but I've never been a morning person. I mean, I do not wake up before 8 a.m. if I can avoid it, or unless there's something special going on and I absolutely have to, because I get most of my work done. My best work gets done between maybe 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. And I just go into this laser focus mode and I get so much done, and it's fantastic. So I will work in the morning and I do work in the afternoon, but the evenings are just fantastic for getting things done. So, but I really struggled with that for so long. So I think the thing is also accepting you and how you function.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think there's a kind of work ethic thing associated with that, isn't there? That you kind of feel that you want to get the work out of the way so you can then relax. That seems to be like a logical way to plan the day, and you can think, well, I've done that now, so now I can just kick back and enjoy myself. But I was the same, actually. When I ran my cleaning business, I had to be an early morning person. I did mainly commercial cleaning for offices, and I used to go out early in the morning before the staff came into work to make sure that the offices had been properly cleaned the night before. And if anything had been left, then I was there to kind of pick up on it. And so my day began early. And then I tried to translate this and continue doing it when I started writing and setting up the website, and wondered why it wasn't working very well. And like you, I discovered that actually I can concentrate much better in the evening. And so, yes, I fought it for quite a long time, but it makes much more sense for me to do that. But of course, not everybody has the luxury that we have of being able to choose their times because they have other commitments. It could be looking after children, or it could be elderly parents, or any other commitments that you have. And so I tell people not to worry about that, because I think that those commitments are quite a good framework for you to work within, because it gives you a very specific window that you know that you've got to do something. Whereas those of us who don't have that, have you ever had a day when there was nothing in particular that you had to achieve and you just thought, oh, this is wonderful, I've got a whole clear day, I'm going to do so much. And then at the end of the day, you look back and you think, actually, I haven't done anything in particular, because it just felt like I had so much time that I never got round to it.
Yeah. That's why I try to set the top three things I need to get done each day. Otherwise, I just don't focus on the important stuff.
Yeah, I mean, social media is brilliant for home workers, obviously, because it keeps us in touch with each other and with the outside world and brings us information. But that is one of the biggest time-wasting things that you can get drawn into if you're not careful.
Yes, I agree. And that's, I mean, in my social media course, my online course that I offer, my big thing is helping people try to avoid wasting time on social media by being really, really focused on what they do and knowing what to focus on.
Yeah, I think if you haven't got a goal and you don't give yourself a sort of a limit as to how you're going to achieve that, then it's easy just to stay and you find yourself going from site to site, because it's all so interesting, but you're not actually achieving very much.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about your business. Now, you've got your book and you also run workshops. So how do you work with people to help them work from home more effectively?
Well, the workshops are with groups of people, either who are moving into home working to help them with that transition, or people who have been at home working for a while, mainly to get them together, to get them out of their usual environment, to just discuss the common challenges. Because when you're working at home on your own, there's this tendency to feel as though I'm the only one who has this problem. Everybody else can appear to be so efficient and so businesslike and so professional and achieving so much. And I think we tend to berate ourselves and feel that we're not quite up to the mark. And so it's very nice to be able to go along to a workshop and discuss these things. And the comments that people usually come up with are, oh, thank goodness it's not just me. I thought I was going mad, but other people feel like this too. So those are the workshops, and then I work one-to-one with home workers over the phone or Skype to help them to overcome this perspective problem of living and working in the same place and not being able to see the wood for the trees. Because I think it really helps to be able to talk to somebody who completely understands the situation and yet is also objective. Because if people ask for help from their family and friends, usually the family and friends have an opinion or an agenda of their own, and it can sometimes actually add to the pressure rather than helping resolve the situation.
Especially if the family or friends don't have experience in working from home. I mean, if you've always worked in an office, you just really can't imagine what it's like.
That's right, yeah. So just really talking to somebody who knows what it's like and has been there and done it many times, because I've experienced all of the challenges, I can tell you. It helps people to move forward. And then what normally happens at the end of the call is that they will say, I just feel so privileged, actually, that I can work from home. It's a real blessing. And although there are challenges, there are ways around everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm immensely grateful for the fact that I can work from home. It's just absolutely vital to my happiness.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. So, Judy, do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
Well, there's a lady called Barbara Winter, who you may have heard of. She is a great proponent of being self-employed, which she refers to as being joyfully jobless, which I think is brilliant. Ooh. And she has quite a big following. She's in the States, and she's done a lot of work over the years to help people to think about moving from employment into doing something for themselves. And then Judy Piatkus, who was the founder of the Piatkus Publishing House. And she was one of the pioneers of the alternative publishing, or the mind, body, spirit sector of publishing. And she built up her business, and then she did a sort of a U-turn, or she changed her business dramatically when she could see that the market was changing, and went into fiction, and then sold her business to a much bigger publisher in 2007, just before the credit crash happened. So she's a very clever lady, very astute businesswoman, and very good sense of timing.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Those are some great examples. I love the joyfully jobless perspective. So, Judy, where can people find you online?
Well, my website's called workfromhomewisdom.com, and I'm also quite often on Twitter, and I'm at Judy Heminsley on Twitter. That's my preferred social media platform.
Excellent. All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we sign off for today?
I think simply my message is that to get the best of working from home, you need to find out what suits you. View it as an experiment and try things. And if they don't work, don't get downhearted. Just move on to the next. Because once you do find what suits you, as you say, it's brilliant, and it brings a lot of happiness and fulfillment into your life. And I just think that working from home has so many benefits, not only for the individual, but also for the community, because we all know what a community feels like if the majority of people are going off on the train every day up to London or somewhere to work. The place feels empty and neglected, whereas if people are around more, then that means you can support your local shops and businesses. And also, of course, from the point of view of the planet, because if we're not commuting as much, we're saving fuel, not polluting as much. And I just think it goes some way towards addressing a lot of the problems that we're currently facing. It's obviously not the solution for everything, but it at least helps.
I agree, and I love what you said about community. There's so many times when I'll go to the grocery store at, 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and it's full of people. And I think, what are all these people doing here? Don't they work? Are they all working from home? It always surprises me, but I love actually seeing people out and about and not, living in a town that's just completely dead.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, it's much more vibrant, isn't it? And a much greater chance of people being able to make a living for themselves without having to go to a city every day.
Good point. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I absolutely loved hearing all of your little nuggets of wisdom and your tips about working from home, because for me, it's just brought so much joy into my life. And I just would love to encourage everyone else to give it a try and see if it's right for them.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. And I certainly would encourage people to try.
Yeah, well, thank you. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP42 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.